Hello everybody. Dream India Educations welcome you. Our motto is your success, our concern. Our today's topic is the syllabus analysis of society module, which is part of GS paper 1. See, this is again a very important part from your mains point of view, because in mains in paper 1 you'll be able to get around 4 to 5 questions from this segment, and mostly the questions are answerable and relatively easier also if you are very thorough with the vocabulary of this particular module. And it is also very easy to predict the questions, unlike art and culture. So first I'm going to read out the chapters of this module. Just have a look on that. The first chapter is that is the salient features of Indian society. The second chapter is that is the diversity in India. Third is that is women in Indian society, that is the position of women in Indian society. The fourth chapter is that is the women organizations. Fifth chapter is that the population and the related issues. Sixth chapter is poverty and developmental issues. Seventh chapter is that is urbanization. Eighth chapter is that is globalization and Indian society. Ninth chapter is that is the national integration. 10th is that is communalism. 11th chapter is that is regionalism. 12th chapter is that is secularism. Beside that, also two more chapters are there. These are associated with the contemporary issues of Indian society as well as casteism, even though it is not explicitly mentioned in the UPSC syllabus, but we have taken it because you may get some of the other questions from that area also. So now we are going to see all these chapters one by one. First chapter is the salient features of Indian society. So in this chapter, first we have to define what is a society, what are the component of society, how a society function, and after that we have to see the evolutionary timeline of Indian society, that how Indian society evolved in ancient time, in medieval time, and in the modern time. And after that we have to focus upon the characteristics, the predominant characteristics of Indian society at the present time. So it is consisting around 10 to 15 points that you are supposed to remember every time. Now next chapter is that is the diversity of India, that means the Indian society. So as a part of this, first you are supposed to understand that why Indian society is so diverse. What is the genesis of this diversity? After that, you are supposed to focus upon the different types of diversity or the different forms of diversity and the extent of that diversity. For example, religious diversity, ethnic diversity, linguistic diversity, racial diversity, economic diversity, caste diversity. So you are supposed to understand all these diversities, the causes of that, as well as what the extent of that, and how these diversities actually impact Indian society. After that, you are supposed to understand the positive of Indian diversity, the negative aspects of Indian diversity. You have to understand the degree of these diversities. Then you are supposed to understand the challenges to this diversity, whether this diversity is getting diluted. Is this diversity is a root cause to some or the other law and order problems in India? So all these things we are supposed to understand from that. And after that, we are supposed to understand the measures taken by the government to protect this to this diversity. And that is again a very important part. Essay can also be asked. That means the measures taken by the government of India to ensure the unity among all these diversity in India. That is again a very important aspect so far as this module is concerned. The third chapter is that is the position of women in Indian society. This is also a very important chapter. So here we are supposed to see the evolution of the position of women in Indian society since ancient time to till this modern time. The second aspect is that is we have to emphasize that is the manifestation of patriarchy in Indian society, that how the orientation of Indian society is still patriarchal, that we have to see with the help of a number of examples. Then we are supposed to see that how there is a shift in the present time in the position of women in the society, in Indian society, particularly in the 21st century. So what are the factors of that and how we are able to find that shift? What is the manifestation of all this shift? Whether it is political manifestation, social manifestation, economic manifestation, cultural manifestation, psychological manifestation, what are these? All these things we have to see. Beside that, also we have to focus upon the steps taken by the government to improve the women's position in Indian society. The next chapter is that is the women's organization. This is again an important chapter, and some other day you may get a very dedicated question from this chapter in your mains. So here we are supposed to understand the significance of the women organization. Then we have to see the working of some of the women organizations, particularly the pre-independence period organizations as well as the post-independent period organization. And here we have to categorize the organizations in the form of the constitutional organizations, then the statutory organizations, for example, National Women Council, then the civil society organizations also. Beside that, we have to study the problems faced by this women organization, and at the same time, the impact of the working of this women organization upon Indian society, particularly in uplifting the position of women in Indian society. So this is again an important chapter. Next chapter is, that is the population and the related issue. So here what we have to see, that we have to emphasize population as a resource, and at the same time we have to analyze the transition of Indian population from a demographic bulge to demographic dividend, and what the initiative we have to uh, take to tap this demographic dividend also. Besides that, we have to focus upon the different problems faced by our population, whether it is social problem, economic, environmental, political, demographic problem, and the initiative taken by the government to solve all these problems. The next chapter is, that is the poverty and the developmental issues. This is we have to do in economy also. So see, so for this chapter is concerned here, first we are supposed to understand the definition of poverty. What is the relative poverty and absolute poverty? Then we have to understand the different types of poverty. Then we have to understand the causes of poverty. That is the historical cause, political cause, economic cause, social cause, political administrative cause. All these causes we have to understand. After that, we have to understand the measurement of poverty, particularly how the BPL line is defined and how the BPL line is used in the disbursement of a number of subsidies by the government of India. Beside that, we are also supposed to understand the different approaches taken by the government of India since independence to curb poverty, including the Garibi Hatao Nara to the concept of the inclusive development in the present time. So the next chapter is, that is urbanization. It is again a very important topic, and you may expect one or the other question every year from this chapter in paper 1. So first we are supposed to understand the definition of urbanization, then the stages of urbanization in India. After that, we have to understand the positive and the negative impact of urbanization. Then we are supposed to understand the different trends of urbanization, and then we are supposed to see the different solutions or the approaches to the problems of urbanization in India in coming times. Next chapter is globalization in Indian society, and this is one of the very favorite chapter of UPSC, and every other year, every alternative year, UPSC is asking some or the other question from the chapter. So first here we are supposed to see the definition of globalization, and already we know that globalization is an economic phenomena, but here we are supposed to see globalization as a socio-economic phenomena also. So next is, that is we are supposed to see the manifestation of globalization upon Indian society in terms of our culture, in terms of our dressing sense, in terms of our food habit, in terms of the position of women, in terms of the lifestyles of the child. Everything is getting changed by globalization. So therefore, first we are supposed to see all this manifestation under different headings. Even though these headings are not mentioned here, but there are a number of headings under which we are supposed to see the impact of globalization. After that, we are supposed to understand the positive and the negative impact of globalization. What are the positive impact and what are the negative impact? Then we are supposed to see the impact of globalization upon our cultural values, and at the same time we are supposed to understand the differences between globalization leading to westernization or leading to modernization, because modernization is what is expected for Indian society, but mere emulation of the Western culture in the form of westernization is not good for the protection of our own cultural values. So we are supposed to see this irony also. Next chapter is, that is national integration. This is again a very important chapter. So here first we are supposed to understand what is the meaning of national integration, what are the components of that, what is the framework of national integration, whether the constitutional framework or the legal framework. Then we have to understand the challenges to the national integration in the form of, suppose, communalism, in the form of regionalism, etc., etc. Beside that, we are supposed to understand the working of the National Integration Council as well as the different initiatives taken by the government of India to promote national integration among all the people of India. Next chapter is, that is communalism. So here we are supposed to understand what is the definition of it, what are the causes of communalism in India, the manifestation of it, its impact, and government's initiative to curb communal violences in India. And in that context, we are supposed to understand the different aspect of the proposed communal harmony bill also. Next aspect is, that is regionalism. Again, we are supposed to understand the definition of that, the causes of regionalism, the manifestation of regionalism, the positive and the negative impact of regionalism, and the different initiative taken by the government to curb it. Next chapter is that is secularism. Again, all these things you're supposed to see here: the definition of secularism, the Western version of secularism, as well as the Indian version of secularism, and how both these two things are separated from one another. The constitutional basis of secularism in India, the manifestation of secularism, the impact of secularism, both the positive as well as the negative impact of secularism in India, and at the same time, the initiative taken by the government of India to curb the deviation from secularism in India. Next chapter is that is the new social trends in India. Now see, at the present time, we are able to find a number of aspects in Indian society. For example, the prominence of the head speech. Beside that, the Ghar Wapasi movement and the need for an anti-conversion law. Then Chauvinistic interpretation of history, glorifying the ancient period of India. Then the communal violence bill, etc., etc. Beside that, we are supposed to also understand the caste dynamics in India. So here we are supposed to understand the constitutional basis of casteism in India, rise of casteism in India, particularly during the British period, the pros and cons of casteism in India, the concept of caste mobility, that is both the horizontal mobility as well as the vertical mobility. Beside that, the caste-based reservation. There's a need of shift from caste-based reservation to the class-based reservation, and how we see that. So all these things we are supposed to read as a part of the the caste dynamics of India. Beside that, there's another chapter, last but not the least, that is the rise of middle class in India. Now see, presently almost everybody claim that they belong to the middle class, but this middle class is not yet properly defined in Indian context. So in that context, we are supposed to define first what is the middle class, what are the reason for the growth of the middle class in India in the 21st century, what are the characteristics of middle class, what is the role of this middle class upon Indian society. So these are the few chapters, the few 15 chapters that we have to read as a part of our society module. Again, I have told that the questions in this module are more or less predictable and easy to answer if we know the vocabulary in a proper way. So all these chapters that I have discussed as a part of the syllabus are going to be dealt separately one by one in coming times with the help of a number of videos. And till that, stay connected with us, go through all our videos, and all the best. Thank you.